So a little bit of background, my name is Jamie Mittelman. I graduated from the Kennedy School last year. I had the privilege of chairing this conference for 3 years, but I am really excited to introduce our esteemed guests who I think you're all here to hear from. So without further ado, I'm gonna start with Danusia Francis Reed. Danusia is an Olympic Jamaican gymnast. She's a presenter, a stuntwoman, a choreographer, and at the age of 9, she won her first British championship. She placed in the top 6 until she was 18 years old. She missed qualifying for the Olympics twice, but she made her dream come true in Tokyo. So we are so excited to have Danusia here today. So just to start, we're going to go one by one. Danusia, I know this has been a massive year for you, had a lot of milestones. Tell us about some of those exciting moments.
Yeah, so, okay, I can't put it off. I'm going to hold it like this. Yeah, so after the Tokyo Olympics, or actually at the Tokyo Olympics, I tore my ACL. So I found out when I was there. And as Jamie mentioned, I narrowly missed out. In 2012, for the British team, I was reserve. And then for 2016, I was representing Jamaica. And at the 2015 World Championships, I qualified, but Jamaica sent another gymnast. So I missed out by just the smallest amount both times. So to then have COVID and finally make it to Tokyo was, it was quite devastating to have the injury, but at the same time, it was just my dream to get there and be an Olympian. So after lots of meetings, I was able to compete just a few skills on the uneven bars. I scored 3 points, but I became an Olympian. And that was just an incredible achievement for me. And I'm always someone that does look at the silver lining. So to become an Olympian, I've got the tattoo and I can tell the world. As well as that, competing for Jamaica is just incredible. I'm the second ever Olympian and I wanted to get my score in the history books and to help all the Jamaican gymnasts to realise that we are here to stay in gymnastics at the Olympic level, at the elite level. So I didn't want there to be that gap when I had made it. So it wasn't just for me, it was for all the Jamaican gymnasts. And Jamaican gymnastics has come so far in a short amount of time, but there's still not enough funding and not enough assets to really be competing with the best of the best. So I think it is moving, but there obviously needs a lot more help. And hopefully in the future, we'll see some Olympic medalists. And oh no, I was a small part of that. So yeah.
We're so excited to have Danusia. I would say that she's a very large part of growing the Jamaican Olympic movement. Next, we have Rukhsar Habibzai. She was born in Afghanistan, and she's the founder of Cheetah Cycling Club. She is also the captain of the founding member and captain of the Afghanistan women's cycling team that was nominated for the 2016 Nobel Peace Prize. She was a dentistry student who was forced to leave Afghanistan as she and her family were specifically targeted by the Taliban. And she's now currently living in Virginia, where she is practicing dentistry and is a member of Virginia's Blue Ridge 24 cycling team. So to start, Rukhsar, you haven't made it to the Olympics, but that is your goal. Can you tell us about the challenges of being a woman from Afghanistan? You've overcome so much to get where you are today.
First of all, I would love to thank Harvard University for having me here. I really feel honored to share my story today. Being a female cyclist in Afghanistan was unacceptable for the community, and cycling was not a part of our culture. We fought every day to make it a part of our culture. It was considered a taboo. And especially men were not used to seeing a woman on the bike. So that's why they would abuse us verbally and physically. And still I remember they throw stone on us. Whatever they had, they just throw on us. They push us from the bikes, and it was very difficult for us to adjust it in a part of our culture, and it was very difficult. even we didn't have any support from community, from any sport federations, from our families. And there was a lot of corruption and sexual harassment in department, like sports department. So that's why most of families, they didn't allow their daughters to join any sports, not even cycling, any sports. So that was very difficult for us to adjust it and to make it part of our culture. And the other challenging that we faced too was, Taliban insecurity. We started our day with a bomb explosion. So it was very difficult for our families. Like my mom, she always argued with me that I don't want you to go outside I don't want to lose you. So it was very difficult for our family, and we didn't have any support from community, from family, nothing. And even we didn't have any professional bikes. Like it was a dream for me to be a professional cyclist. Yeah, I was a cyclist, but I didn't have a professional bikes. I didn't have a professional equipment to be a professional cyclist. Like I feel I was a cyclist. That's it. So, and at the same time, I was a student medical. It was very difficult for me to handle both of them. And most of the people, they just laugh at me like, you can carry both things in one hand. But if you want, you can do it. So we faced a lot of challenges. Like Taliban, they attacked on us several times. And because we didn't have a specific bike trail, we ride in a very dangerous road in Kabul city. I'm sure Kabul street was one of the most dangerous city in the world. So, it was very difficult for us to adjust it, to make it a part of our culture. And but we made it.
We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Next, we have Anastasia Pagonis. Anastasia is a Tokyo Paralympian and a 3-time world champion. She got into swimming at the age of 12, when she started to lose her vision. Her hobbies include hanging out with friends, social media, where she uses her platform to educate people on vision impairment, and the Paralympics and parasport. She also has a fabulous guide dog named Radar. So to begin, I know Radar is not here with us today, but can you tell us about him and your relationship with Radar?
Yeah. Radar's not here. I don't want to slouch. Okay. I'm sorry. Radar's not here today. But y'all probably wish he was because he's really cute. But he has changed my life so much. Being someone who's visually impaired, and especially a teenager, it was really hard for me to be going out to the mall and have to have like my mom holding my hand and helping me get places. It was definitely super frustrating for me. So Radar was a huge part of my life to give me independence. And now I feel like I can kind of conquer the world with him. I'm able to go places and do things by myself, which is really special. And it's definitely just gives me so much more confidence in myself that I don't have to like go out and have my parents help me with things. And, obviously getting help and being vulnerable is really important, but it's also amazing to have that independence. And if it can be a really cute puppy, then why not? And I'm so happy to be here. So thank you all.
We also have Sean, who is here, who is, we're so excited.
He's gonna hate you now.
Welcome, Sean. Last but certainly not least, we have Jenny Sitchell. Jenny is a Paralympic silver medalist in para rowing. She is the coach and operations director at the National Council of Independent Living. Jenny has been in the world of rowing for 17 years, 7 of those with USA Rowing. She won the Paralympic silver silver in 2016 and 4 World Championship silver medals. She's a strong advocate for mental health as she identifies as having a mental health disability. So, Jenny, you're a viewer of the world as having a gold lining. Can you tell us about this? What does that mean and where did it come from?
So, Danusia, I love your silver lining, but I'm sick and tired of silver. So I am now a viewer of the gold lining because, in my opinion, something good comes from something bad. It just is really how you look at the situation. And you may not realize or know when you're going to find that gold lining. But I think that eventually you'll see that something positive has come out of a negative situation. And I've had that happen so much in my life. And it's always surprised me when I find the positives, but it's always been there. So that's why I'm a viewer of the gold lining and no longer the silver lining.
To recap, Jenny has 1 Paralympic silver medal and 4 silvers at the World Championship. So that's why.
Not that I don't love Great Britain, but they've beaten us every single time. By like between 2 seconds and 0.2 seconds. So I'm kind of over silver.
And once again, we'd like to thank Alex Tapley of We Row and the Para Rowing Foundation for bringing Jenny here today. So one of the themes of Flame Bearers is focusing on resilience. So Danusia, starting with you, what does resilience mean to you and how is it manifested? Obviously, you shared a little bit about your journey, but it's been a huge part of your path.
Yeah, resilience has truly got me where I am today, and I'm going to use the gold lining. There's been a lot of trials and tribulations along the way, so I'll just try and make it a bit more concise. But starting gymnastics at the age of 5, and I was quite early on, I was identified as having talent. But then when I was 9, the gymnastics club that I was training at was going to be demolished and made into a car park. So it was from that age that I started to have to overcome barriers. So I tried out a few of the top gyms in the country, but at that time there was only sort of 3 and none of them were close to where I lived. So the one that I liked the most was 100 miles away from my house, and they did have a boarding school. So I moved to boarding school, and there was no pressure from any of my family. This was me. I was like, Mum, bye, leave me here. And I absolutely loved it. And I've been at that gym ever since. And then I would say the next barrier, and I hope it's not a me thing, but that school that I was at ended up becoming bankrupt and shutting down. So that was another barrier, but we were lucky that another school took on our school gymnastics team. And yeah, like you said, out of hard situations comes good and great opportunities. So at that school, I was able to accomplish all my academic goals, which also helped to lead me to a scholarship on the UCLA gymnastics team. So I joined the UCLA team in 2012.
Women, Olympians, Paralympians, forces of nature who inspire us all. Their stories deserve to be heard.
It's like, wow, you got background music. She's pretty cool. That's a lead. We'll just sit over here. Yeah.
She is a stunt woman, so.
That's what was going through my head, too. I was like, she has it taken care of.
So it was at UCLA where I fell in love with the sport again. I'd kind of lost that along the way, but UCLA and the college gymnastics system really made me thrive, and I just absolutely loved the performance side of things, and it really brought out the joy again in the sport. So then I decided I wanted to compete internationally again and potentially go after my Olympic dream again. So as the Great Britain team are very competitive, it wasn't really feasible for me to travel back from LA to attend the national squads and the trials. So I'm half Polish and I'm half Jamaican. So I explored both of those options, but I secretly knew I wanted to be on Usain Bolt's team all along. So I got my Jamaican passport and started that process. And having gone through that, obviously I mentioned the tricky situation in 2016. I then graduated and retired from the sport and was kind of done and thought I'll put that Olympic dream to bed. I got close, and UCLA had allowed me to be proud of being in the reserve, which was something that I saw as a failure before that. But then a couple of years on, I decided to make the comeback and aim for Tokyo. And the resilience that took, and kind of putting your ego aside and also realizing that I could also for lack of a better word, fail for a third time at my dream. And obviously with the Olympics, it's every 4 years. I thought after Tokyo, there wasn't really another attempt in me. So it was kind of all or nothing, and a lot of emotions along the way, and also having to work and pay bills. Being an adult now alongside training was very difficult, but I had the support of my coaches, my family, my now husband, and made it happen. So yeah, obviously the ACL that I've already touched on, that happened. But again, I see that as a gold lining. I was able to show people that you can turn it around. And I went on to that stage at the Olympics with the biggest smile, probably out of all of the competitors, because I knew whatever happened, even if I just touched the bar, I was becoming an Olympian that day. And that was my dream come true. And now I'm aiming to make my other dreams come true. So working in stunts, and my main goal is to be a presenter. So I was lucky enough to present at the Commonwealth Games last year and the World Gymnastics Championships, and most recently the British Gymnastics Championships.
And if anyone has not seen Danusia on beam, she was the NCAA champion in beam. Absolutely some of the most amazing routines ever. Same question for you, Ruksar. So resilience has obviously been a huge part of your life too. What does it mean to you, and how has it manifested?
As I mentioned, I have been facing struggling a lot. So even though my journey from Afghanistan was unpleasant, it left me with a lot of post-traumatic stress. But this journey was very unique, where I truly learned about myself, and this journey transferred me into a stronger, better, and kind of person. And I believe that growth and discomfort come together, and I call this is resilience.
Anastasia, I know you were excited to talk about this too, specifically in light of losing your vision. So tell us about resilience in your life.
Okay, yeah. I feel like resilience is something that you have to build. It's a character that kind of comes. It's not something that everyone just has. You have to be pushed down a flight of stairs to get back up them. I know from experience. And I feel like it's something that you have to grow, and you kind of have to stay down in that moment. So I lost my vision. I was losing my vision from 12, and I lost a majority of my vision at 14. And I felt like I kind of had to stay in that depression for a little while and kind of soak it all in and then find myself enough to get that resilience to come back out of it. I couldn't kind of just jump out of it, which I feel like is really important, because people kind of push that on you to just get out of that funk, which really isn't possible. And I feel like it's something that you kind of have to make your way to, which is really important. And I'm still learning about resilience every day. I recently just got a concussion and lost my coach, and I'm going through a shoulder injury. So I'm still in the process of kind of learning that still, which is really hard for me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's time for me to retire, but I know that it's not, and I know that I have a lot more to show the world. So still learning resilience every day.
Jenny, I know that you were a huge fan of this topic. You said if there was any one word that you had to use to describe yourself, it would be resilience. Go for it.
I am very proud of myself for taking this off, guys. But I think for me, resilience it almost defines me in a way, because I feel like my journey and pathway has been such a roller coaster. I started rowing in college, and then had an event happen to me. I was actually sexually harassed by a coach in college, and basically had to make an entire shift one summer. And because I was resilient, because I made that shift, I went and I randomly coxed at a pre-elite boat club in Philadelphia and gave myself opportunity. ended up also randomly coxing the adaptive national team coach one day. She hopped in a boat and was like, hey, you're pretty good. Can I get your name and number? And I was like, sure. I'll cox for Vesper Boat Club again. And so she basically contacted me 2 weeks later and was like, hey, I want you to come try out for the adaptive national team. And that was how I got my start in parasport. And then I made my first national team in 2010 and came in 6th place at World Championships that year. And then came back in 2011 and didn't make the team. Was going up against the same exact person, same exact coach, and the coach chose the other person. So I was pretty devastated because when I was 6 years old, I saw Nancy Kerrigan on TV and she said that she was 6 when she started figure skating. And my first thought as a 6-year-old was, I still have a shot at the games. So I really wanted to go to the Olympics so badly. And then not making the team in 2011 was just devastating. I came back again in 2012. I moved out to California for 9 months, trained so hardcore out there, and then came back to try out again in 2012 and didn't make the team. And after that, I kind of went into depression for a couple months, just living day to day. And I came up to Head of the Charles here in Boston. I wasn't living in Boston at the time. Came to Head of the Charles and was talking to 2 of my totally blind athletes about my training and what I wanted to do. And did I want to go back into high performance rowing? And they were basically like, Jenny, stop. And I was like, what? And they were like, we can hear you smiling right now. And I didn't even realize that I was smiling when I was talking about high performance training, but that made me realize that I loved it. And so I moved to Oklahoma because, yeah, that's where the athletes were at the time. Go figure. There is water there, I promise. And so I moved to Oklahoma and got back on the horse again. I even, prior to moving to Oklahoma, I went down to Princeton area where the women's national team training center was, walked up to the women's national team head coach as he's walking into the office. And I go, hey, my name's Jenny. I was on the national team in 2010. I want to get back on the horse. Can I come ride the launch with you? And he said, yeah, sure. And then I moved to Oklahoma, and then the boat came up to Boston, coach changed, and I made the team in 2013. And in 2014, I won a silver medal with the team. And in 2015, I made the team again, silver medal. Same thing, 2016, 17, 18. 2019, the coach changes. I didn't make the team. I'd been on the team for 7 years, and I didn't make the team. And so I wasn't going to Tokyo as an athlete. There was very little chance I was going to Tokyo as an athlete, but rather than let that affect me, which I mean, I might end up crying up here at some point, just FYI, it's still pretty raw. But I'm also a Pisces, so, so I ended up actually coming back in 2020 and 2021 as a coach for an athlete and went to Tokyo coaching an athlete, a para-athlete, a para-rower. So it's like, even though I didn't get one thing, the resilience took effect. And I was like, let's figure out how to make this work. Let's figure out how to do this. And so I'm still on that pathway right now. Like I said, it's still pretty raw, everything that happened to me, but it's like, let's come back even stronger and see what we can do.
Thank you for sharing that, Jenny. I know you haven't shared that before, so that's a very big deal. Danusia, I know, just yank it out. In your Flame Bearers podcast, season 1, everyone go back and check it out if you haven't heard it yet. You told us about your parents, their backgrounds, their cultures, and how they influenced you. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, I'm half Polish and half Jamaican, but my mum raised us as a single parent. My mum's Polish. So we grew up with Polish traditions, such as Christmas on Christmas Eve and things like that. And I was always really proud of my Polish heritage, and my name, Danusia, was actually Polish as well. But I was always, even though I didn't learn much about my Jamaican side, it was always the Olympics that made me so proud of being Jamaican and seeing obviously all the track and field athletes. And so that was a huge part of me deciding to compete for Jamaica. And I also felt like I would fit into that team and their vibe. And it was true. And then kind of when I met my partner, who's now my husband, he's really into Black history and he is also half Jamaican. So it was amazing to meet him and really get to explore and learn together about the history of both of our ancestors. and to kind of learn, obviously, Jamaica having been a slave colony and to where they are today with so much culture, music, and just having such a huge stamp on the world. I feel like in a tiny, tiny way, my story in representing Jamaica in gymnastics is a microcosm of all of this. And as Jamie mentioned, I've been able to kind of trailblaze for the sport, and I'm going to continue to do that. Obviously, I live in the UK, but I think it's been amazing to have the facilities that I have in the UK and my coaches, because then I was able to get onto that international stage and now pave the way for Jamaican athletes. There's now a national facility there, which I was able to go to the opening of in 2019. And there's a lot more funding, still a long way to go, but it's amazing. And to see how many young, inspiring gymnasts there are there. And we've got some really good homegrown talent. So it will just be incredible to see one day them having a full team at the Olympics and then hopefully some medals in years to come. But very, very proud to be half Polish and half Jamaican.
So when we invited Ruksar to join us, she immediately went on social media and asked women of Afghanistan what was important to address today. That was her reaction. So Ruksar, what is the current situation of women in Afghanistan, and why does this matter to you?
Of course, I'm an Afghan woman. It matters to me. And the current situation of women in Afghanistan is going worse every day, day by day. Like the Taliban, they're banned school and universities for the women, and they don't have any activities like before. And especially like sports are finished in Afghanistan for women athletes. That is very heartbreaking for me. And like sometimes I'm thinking like it's like a nightmare. Like we work hard for 20 years and everything is gone now. We improved a lot, but right now the situation is very bad. Women are not allowed to do any kind of activities, or schools and everything is banned for them, and it is very difficult. I'm an Afghan woman. I know how they survive, and every day they're fighting for their rights. And I'm here. I'm fighting for their rights, and I want all of our women around the world to raise our voice to stop the Taliban. And this is. I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous because that's my country. It's very hard.
Thank you for sharing that. I can't even imagine what that must be like. Anastasia, you are super passionate about changing how people, as you say, see the visually impaired. Can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so hopefully all of you are a bit more informed. But if you thought in your head what a blind person would look like, it probably wouldn't be me. You probably would picture what Hollywood shows blind people as, which is someone who's walking like a zombie with dark sunglasses and honestly doesn't know how to do anything for themselves or anything for that matter. So I want to show the world that blindness doesn't have to look a certain way, act a certain way, and be a certain way. And I feel like for all disabled people, they like to put us in a box, and we have to stay in that box. And if we go out of that box, then we aren't disabled, we're not disabled enough, or we're a faker, which isn't true. So I want to show people that this is what visually impaired is, and show them that, yeah, I can dress myself, I can look cute, I can do my own makeup, I can be an elite athlete, and break down those stereotypes. And something that a lot of people don't know is that blindness is a spectrum, and actually only 6% of people that are blind see nothing and just blackness. And I feel like everyone pictures us as just seeing blackness and that little zombie look, which just isn't the case. So I'm trying to grow my social media and show people in a way that they understand. So I like to call it dark humor, and kind of break it down. It is dark humor, and show people that, yeah, this is what that is.
I've personally been very influenced by Anastasia's Instagram, where she literally breaks this down for people who do not have vision impairment and breaks down biases. So highly recommend people following her to reality check some things that I have learned. Yes. Jenny, you are a massive advocate for mental health. Where does this come from? Tell us about your commitment.
Yeah, so I also follow Anastasia on Instagram, and that has nothing to do with my mental health. So my mental health comes from, basically, I have severe obsessive compulsive disorder, disability level. So it affects me every second of every day, as any other disability might. And because of that, I've always been I've never really spoken out because I've always been afraid of stigma, and I've always been afraid of, especially in athletics, someone saying, oh, she has a mental health. Oh yeah, she probably won't do well in competition or won't be able to like do anything right. And just because that is such a kind of view that a lot of people have, you know, but I think that we really need to more normalize, for lack of a better word. I don't like the word normal, but more normalize mental health, because a lot of people have challenges. A lot of people have struggles. A lot of people are affected by it. And if we speak more about it, it's going to become less taboo, less frowned upon, less, oh, we need to send that person into an institution because they can't be a part of daily society. I was misdiagnosed for 11 years. And then in college, I was the weird kid on the hall in my freshman year of school. And it's just like from going, I mean, I was also drum major in high school and like had a ton of superstitions and was quirky. And so from going from that to realizing that I had OCD to actually speaking out about it and realizing how many other people are affected by mental health too, who are just like afraid to say something, or maybe don't know that they're affected, or don't want to spoil it for their teammates, don't want their coach to judge them. Like, that's why I like speaking out about it, because I mean, I like to use my platform, what I've done, the silver medals I've won, to show people like, yeah, you can have a disability and still be a badass athlete too. So.
As someone with also diagnosed OCD, I really appreciated that. Danusia, what advice would you have to young athletes, girl gymnasts, people who look up to you? What would you tell them that you wished you had known?
I would definitely say don't hold back on chasing your dreams. There's not a timeline or a time limit. When I was growing up, I always realised that 2012 was the Olympics that I would first be eligible for. So as a teenager, it was 2012 or nothing. And then I was done with gymnastics. And so it's funny looking back, and I hung on to the sport for such a long time. I also thought that being a gymnast, that was it, cut off out of the sport. But now I'm doing so much in the sport and it is my passion. So it's kind of following your passion, following your drive and not giving up. As well as helping Jamaican Gymnastics, I'm also on the board at British Gymnastics. It's the first time they've had an athlete representative. So they chucked out their own rule book. They used to have a rule that you had to be in the corporate world for 10 years to be on their board. So there's been, if anyone does follow gymnastics, you'll know there's been a lot of abuse scandals all over the world, but including Great Britain. So for them to change their rules and have me on the board, it feels amazing to have a voice and really reach out to the community and be making a change from the inside out. So I realised why it's a slow change now being in this position, but it's amazing to be a part of that change. So that's also another message that I would send out to women and girls around the world.
Ruxar, same question. So what advice would you give to young women and aspiring cyclists?
I can say for the cyclists, not only for cyclists, for all athletes, set realistic goals be consistent, and take care of your body and nutrition, what you eat, and believe in yourself, chase your dream. Yeah.
Let's just keep going down the line. Anastasia, what do you think?
I feel like not comparing yourself to other people is really important. I think that, even as a swimmer, which is an independent sport, it's comparing yourself constantly to other people. Even like growing up and swimming in a club team, it's always like comparing yourself, and especially me as like someone with a disability, comparing myself to able-bodied athletes. It's not needed. So I would say not to compare yourself to people and to always have hope, because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and just to keep fighting even when things get really hard, which sounds super cliche. Yeah, that was really cliche. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But yeah, just to keep working and definitely not comparing yourself.
I guess I got the same question. So I would tell both my younger self, but all young female athletes and male athletes for that matter too, but really any athletes. But I would tell them to not be afraid of what people will say to you or think of you. I know when I was younger, I refused to tell anyone that I wanted to go to the Olympics, and I refused to tell, or Paralympics. And that was because I was afraid that they were going to say, oh no, honey, like that's really hard. Like that's not something that people do. And so I never told anyone. Even as I was training, I was like, yeah, I'm just working to get to the highest level I can get to. And so what I didn't realize though, is actually how much support there is out there. And so I would tell the younger generation, like, there's way more people out there that will support you in your dreams than will push you down against them. And just keep that in mind when you do go for something.
Final question from me before we turn it open to the audience. We have a room captive where you can make an ask of them. So what is the one action you each want people here today to do after you leave?
I would say, going off what Jenny said, just own your goals, whether they're to do with sports or not. And don't fear failure. I feel like life is too short. So even if that action's a personal one and doesn't have to affect anybody else, own your goals and do not fear failure.
Ruxar, how about you? What do you want people to take away from today?
Don't compare yourself to others. Just
I completely screwed up this question. I originally thought that the question was what you were supposed to take away, but
go for that too. Let's do both.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so I was gonna originally say not to judge people and to not put people with disabilities in a box, which I think is just really important, and not to always go with the stereotypes. So that's option A for the question. Option B would be, again, not to compare yourself and to live your life to the fullest, because you never know what could happen. And yeah, just be you, because we're pretty badass.
So the first thing that came to my mind, I guess this is option A. The first thing that came to my mind was, I want you to walk out of here and smile. And just be proud of who you are and have confidence in that. And then the second thing I think is just make sure that you are open to everyone. And no matter who they are, see where they're coming from. Do you not like a person? Do you hate a person? Why? Do they hate you? Why? Like, what is their background? Everyone has a history. Everyone has something. So take a look at that when you approach someone, when you talk to someone. Do you love someone? What's their background? And just look at that and then smile too.
Okay, now we have open forum. Who has a question? Don't be shy. Ooh, yes.
If you were to pick another sport, if you could start all over, what sport would you participate in?
So I'll just reiterate that if you were to pick another sport, so besides gymnastics, cycling, swimming, rowing, what would it be?
I can totally answer that one. So I would do downhill ski racing. I currently do that like in the beer league, but I would love to guide blind and visually impaired athletes in downhill ski racing. So
I'm interested in the offer that you didn't offer me. I will take it. I actually was considering going into a different sport after the Paris Games, and it was triathlons and skiing. So I do need a guide for that. But if this was a totally different life, and I had working eyes, I would definitely do soccer. I grew up playing soccer, and I love soccer. But it just wasn't working for me. The ball was going to my face instead of my feet, and the black eyes weren't working. So yeah.
Flame Bearers is now getting into pairing people together. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Anastasia.
what's the next Winter Games? Like 20? Well,
it's in Italy.
Okay.
Milan, right?
Okay, let's go to Milan.
See you there. I will be a double Paralympian. Crazy.
I always choose cycling because I think I have relationship with cycling. I don't want to cheat with my relationship.
I love the performing side of gymnastics. I think I would go for something like figure skating, but I would also like to do 100 meters and just be done in 10 seconds.
Go for it, Marissa.
What do you hope your legacy will be?
So the question was, what do you hope your legacy will be?
Well, in gymnastics, I feel lucky that I leave the sport having had amazing coaches that have really nurtured me as a whole entire human being. But unfortunately for maybe the majority of gymnasts, that hasn't been the case. So now working on the board at British Gymnastics, I hope that I can change that. And I hope that gymnasts at all levels, from grassroots to the elite level, will leave the sport looking back with amazing memories, friendships, and just with a smile on their face, like they'll leave this room.
So the question was, what do you want your legacy to be? So what do you want to be remembered as, or what do you want when you leave the sport people to know or think about you?
I'm so sorry. I couldn't understand.
Yes. So what do you want people to remember you as?
So like pretty much
Yeah.
And your English is much better than all of our Farsi. So thank you for speaking in English.
No, even it's not my second, actually, not third language.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fight for women's rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
It's very hard when you guys bring the questions on. But I would probably say changing the way that people view the visually impaired, and just not judging people and just thinking thinking about everyone. Don't know.
You talk and you sound really professional. I can't even when I go before. That's not fair.
It's okay. You make me look good. No. No, I'm literally like, oh, I don't want to go after these guys. Like, why do I have to go last? No, I think.
Cherry on top.
Okay, I'm focused. So I think that I want two legacies. The first one is specifically rowing related. When I started para rowing, it was kind of not a thing. Like, yeah, the first time para rowing was in the Paralympics was in 2008. And my first team was in 2010. And we ordered a specific type of boat to come to World Championships, and we got the total opposite of the boat, and we just had to row it. It didn't matter. Nobody cared. And then all of a sudden we started winning medals in 2014, and people started looking. And in 2013, before we were winning the medals, I was the only coxswain at selection camp that year. So I did make it without competition. But 2014, 2015, going on, we started getting more individuals competing, more athletes coming to selection camp. And so what I want people to see my legacy as is very much kind of starting para rowing and starting the competitive side of para rowing and Paralympic rowing in the US. And now getting it going internationally too. Like really working. I mean, I work with Para Rowing Foundation and they work internationally with what they do. And so bringing it, making it stronger in the US, but then bringing it international, making the international competition stronger as well. So that's one. And I think two is just changing the way people view disability. Like you know, I think it's just, we have this vision, which is so historic. I work in independent living outside of this. I'm like, it's amazing what people with disabilities can do. And so we have to give them that opportunity.
So just to wrap up, massive thank you to all of our athletes here today. And to all those who made it possible. They are going to stay here for a little bit after if you want to come up, if you want to meet them. They're very excited about that. I am going to end this with a short video that you heard a little bit of in the middle of our conversation, basically showing you what Flamebearers is. I mentioned that we tell stories of athletes like these incredible women. We do that via live events, podcast, and video production. So after this ends, feel free to go. Feel free to come up and introduce yourself, talk to them, fangirl, because that's what I've been doing all day. That's why I started this. But thank you for joining us.